All right, and the champ, more importantly, is here. Sorry, Jimmy, but good to see you, Liz. Happy, what is it, Thursday? How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm very tired, but I'm waking up. Glad to speak with you. Your energy always brings a light to the day, so this is a good way to start it. And of course, we got a lot of fun things to talk about. PFL, Bellator still going strong. A lot of things just happening in MMA. I mean, just how was life in general? How was the year specifically started out for you outside of all this crazy MMA stuff?
Life's been good, adjusting to that Tennessee life and my wife's crazy life of fostering and rescuing animals that are set for death row, taking advantage of having 6 acres and building out what I thought would be a small farm to what is now the property farm.
Okay.
So it's fun. I get to learn new things. I had some downtime to actually spend with my son and get to like take him to school, which is not usually my job. I'm just the
Right.
train person. So it's been a good year. And then of course back in beautiful San Diego training, can't miss out on that.
Okay, all right. How recent was this move? Is this like really brand new going to Tennessee?
Yeah, so I moved to Tennessee in June.
Okay.
But of course my training camps I do out of San
Yeah.
Diego and I do out of Virginia Beach.
Okay. And you were going to what, to like the East Coast too for some training last time, right?
Yeah, I usually start off my fight camps in San Diego and then I head out to Virginia Beach on the
Okay.
East Coast and then finish out there.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, cool, cool. And I'm curious about this kind of the animals you said that she's been bringing in. Like, what are we talking? Like everything or cats, dogs? What is going on?
Yeah, everything. So when we moved into the house, we don't know if they left them, but there were 2 cats there. So we essentially rescued those cats. We brought our own dogs. My wife had her own horse, but she likes to rescue horses that are set for slaughter. So they're going to go to the meat house. She rescues usually one of the unhealthiest ones, gets them healthy, gets them trained so that way they can go to a family that can't really afford a horse. So essentially, she saves their lives, gets them healthy, rescues them, gets them going good. They get off of death row. They get to go to a family. They're plumped up. They're no longer skin and bones. And what I thought would just be like one horse, she's done 4 this year already.
Wow.
She rescued a sheep that was the same thing, was pregnant, and it was going to be put to slaughter because it has some weird hoof thing. She got a cow, a mini cow, chickens, ducks. I feel like I'm forgetting an
Yeah,
animal. I know
probably.
she almost rescued a deer. Like a deer got dropped as it was running across the yard. She's like, "It's a baby deer!" I'm like,
Yeah.
no, please. Don't do it."
Wow. All right. I mean, that's an amazing kind of and caring kind of cause that she's going for. So big hearted, it sounds like. And it sounds very emotional, though. I'm sure for you seeing all that.
Yeah, and she already rescues dogs that are basically the same thing, like from a
Hmm.
shelter where somebody's not going to keep them. She fosters them in the hope of like finding a forever home, but at the very least, just to because she's a professional dog trainer, so she trains the dogs so that when they go to this person, it's hard to refute. Like here, you have this great behavior dog, and it can do walk on a leash, do this, do A, B, C, and D. And then she's like, "Hey, you keep signing contracts and fighting so that I can keep rescuing animals because otherwise we can't feed them."
Right. It's a little bit of the give and take there, but it's working
Yeah,
out.
it
So
keeps us both employed.
awesome. Well, that's really cool. I mean, there's never a dull day in the life of the Carmouches, right? So,
Exactly.
but yeah. So obviously, new adventure for you again, Liz. This isn't crazy at this point in your career. Still getting some new adventures, and just what has the PFL experience been like so far? Obviously, I haven't had the full thing as we are approaching fight week, but how's it been working with them so far?
It's been great. It's exciting the possibility. I'd said the rumors out there that like I thought that PFL was going to buy out Bellator, and I was right. Put that out there. I was hopeful of like them adding the 135 division, but I knew that honestly the most enticing division was 125, and that seems to be the largest division. But still hopeful 135. But it's been great, having an idea of what that lineup's going to go, knowing that there's this season, and I actually know the potential dates relatively for what the fights are going to be, but having that future is much easier than just playing the guesswork and staying ready, not knowing who your opponent's going to be and when you're going to fight.
Yeah, definitely. This season looks really, really good. I'm very excited for it, and yeah. There's always a world of possibilities with future division additions, like you said. But we'll worry about flyweight at the moment. But last time we saw each other, Liz, was at your last fight, Bellator 300, when you got the win over Ilima. Congrats on that one again. But how do we kind of reflect on that now? Like, I'm curious, is it bittersweet after going through it, especially it was kind of a sad ending just for how Lima, ended up falling to you. But I don't know, how do you look back on it and just in terms of everything that went into it?
Yeah, definitely a lot more emotional than I would have liked. Fighting a friend, like at least, like I said, even going into it, if it had been a friend where we had a falling out and there was a lot of animosity, if it had been a former teammate where we left on bad terms, then it would have made that fight so much easier, right? And
Yeah.
then you could pull the trigger and hurt them and not feel any remorse. And definitely there was a point where I got her in the guillotine at the end of one of those rounds, and I knew I didn't have enough time, but I felt like it was deep enough. I'm like, this could be that moment. I could just put her to sleep at the
Yeah.
guillotine and it'll be all done. And like I didn't hurt her.
Right.
We both came out of
Quick
it
nap.
healthy. Right. And instead of it having to be that like I just killed that nerve and just shut down her leg. But even then, even ending the fight with a doubt in my mind, wondering like, did I actually hurt her knee? Did I blow it
Mm.
out? To know that I didn't. I just hit the nerve and shut down the knee. Her knee was completely healthy. I'm like, okay, cool.
Ooh,
Like I
can
can, I
breathe.
can,
Yeah.
I can be guilt free in knowing that she's still walking around. She's okay. Like I've checked it there so many times. Like, you sure knew? She's like, yeah, my knee is completely fine. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
The
Don't have
rest
to
of the
worry
way.
about that.
Exactly. And then cool, it would have been even cooler if that had been the last fight for Bellator, just to say that like
Right.
on an even number, the beautiful San Diego, everything they put into it. But it did go down with a win on my column,
Mhm.
and Ilima didn't legitimately come out of it hurt. So all things said, the best way it could come.
For sure. For sure. And I mean, with all that in mind, would you say that was the most difficult fight of your career? Just from like just the overall factors kind of element. I'm sure, maybe some fights have been tougher for you in terms of opponents and whatnot, but just in that regard, I guess.
I would say that this would be a tie with my last fight against Shevchenko.
Okay.
When I fought Shevchenko, I was kind of splitting my time and my commitment to between two different gyms. I felt like the gym I'm at now at the arena, and I made that swap all through Bellator. That I was trying to split my time there. I wanted to keep my loyalties to 10 Planet San Diego and everything that they had done for me, but I felt like I was experiencing so much growth and really embracing what I needed to psychologically and physically with the arena. And so me being on the fence there, I really feel like that cost me that fight. And it was such a weird place to have both coaches there and be like listening to them when they're not on the
Yeah.
same page and stuff. So that one was really difficult. And then, of course, fighting a friend, I'd say was right up there with pretty much a tie when you have to figure emotionally what you're going through for that fight.
Yeah, those are both very unique circumstances to kind of combat, but they let us hear, Liz, so I guess it worked out. And that leads us to the Velasquez trilogy, which honestly kind of surprised me to see matched for the first round here. But did it surprise you? I mean, what was kind of your reaction to oh, I got to beat this girl again?
Yeah, 100% it surprised me. It definitely came out of left field. I wasn't expecting it. I honestly forgot because I haven't seen her fight since our last fight. So
Mm,
in my mind, it just didn't even register that she could possibly be one of the talent pool
yeah,
from Bellator brought over, right? I just spaced. Like I'd heard some really rumors about Talia Santos. I knew Dakota was coming in. I knew like Watanabe would probably be the possibility if somebody brought over. I couldn't see how not, but maybe not.
yeah,
Like there were just names that I knew coming over from Bellator. I had a pretty good eye on that I felt like would be silly not to have in the tournament.
yeah.
It just made sense. And then ones I felt like I was kind of like watching where they were at with other organizations. I'm like, ooh, they could come over
Mm,
too. And Velasquez never popped on my mind as I just spaced on her. So when they said
yeah,
like, oh, your first draw, I'm like, Talia Santos or Dakota, right? It's got
yeah.
to be. And they're like, Velasquez. I'm like, wait, what?
Oh,
No,
right.
no. I guess, yeah, I guess that's right. I guess it could be her. So it definitely surprised me. But if anything, like coming into this, there's so much controversy around the first fight.
Hmm.
And in so many ways, like I felt in so many others, like there's no doubts when you don't move and you're getting elbowed, how can you not stop the
Yeah,
fight? And then the second one, fine, we put all that to close and we finish out the fight and I come out of it with a win and it's her tapping. So you can't doubt how that played out.
right.
This third fight, I know that she still feels like she didn't actually lose that second. Like I just threw her off her game and she wasn't ready. The first one, like it was just a controversial win and it wasn't her loss either. So to me, it's a much more dangerous opponent because there's $1 million on the line. And
Hmm.
to me, somebody that's already lost is willing to do anything to be able to achieve that, even stuff that's illegal.
Right.
And they're coming out and in my mind, they may completely throw out their game plan and just do anything and everything just to secure the win. So in my mind, she's a lot more dangerous than she ever has been because there's more money on the line and she wants to dispute all the claims of how those other fights have gone. So I'm more on my toes with this fight and more on my game and ready for anything she might throw at me than it even was in the other two.
All right, I love to hear that, and you kind of convinced me a little bit of it being, maybe more to worry about, because I was thinking like, the last fight specifically was just like a flawless performance from you. That it's like, well, how do you top that, Liz? Maybe just start your like 10 seconds or something. But like, yeah, I'm curious, like in terms of the expectations, I guess, from or of yourself really, and how you approach it, because this is your first trilogy as well, right? So. Um, do you just kind of try to boost and like strengthen what you've already been able to do against her, or is it like try and surprise her with new things, like without giving stuff away? What is it kind of more
Yeah.
lean towards, I guess?
Yeah, it's definitely looking at I have to carry over the strengths that I did within those first two fights and make sure that I carry that over and I implement those as well.
Mhm.
But understanding that she may come out with a completely different game plan.
Yeah.
Right. But for me, each fight is also about my growth and implementing, showing off something different. I've tried with every Bellator fight to show a different aspect to my game and to evolve more and more. And so I want to be able to surprise her and do something different and showcase the flashy, cool stuff that I do here that's not like what most people see. There are elements that I'll do in training, crazy, wild stuff where people are like, no, that's stupid. I'm like, I'm going to try it. They're like, no, don't do it. I'm like, no, I got to try it. you know? And then the fights are I'm like, yeah, it's kind of really dangerous, and in training, like, it's okay. Like, you
Yeah.
make a mistake. But that's also the fun of doing MMA is sometimes you get those highlight reel finishes because you go out there and you try something crazy. Everybody's like, yeah, don't do that. It's a really bad idea. And you're like, yeah, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So I wanna go out there and be strategic and be smart and play to the strengths of the things that I've done. But I also want to go out there and do something crazy and try something I haven't done before that is really fun in training that might work out really well in the fight.
Can you give me an example of something? Or is that a secret?
No, no,
Flying triangle.
example. Like a berimbolo roll to me is something super stupid in MMA, but it's worked before, right? You can see someone Imanari roll, berimbolo
Yeah.
roll into the leg, and it does work. Like one of the fastest finishes in Bellator was done by an Imanari roll,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
something that like my partners would know because I've tried something crazy and gone for it, and they're like, you know what? If we were in Japan, I would stomp your face right now. I'm like, but we're not. So I'm gonna do something
Yeah.
sneaky,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Like, and Bellator, I know like the risk of getting curb stomped is gone. So maybe
Yes.
I can try something crazy like that.
Yeah, send it. There you go. So as for like the season tournament format though with PFL is, I'm curious. I think the weight cutting and the short span is something people talk about a lot. I'm curious though for you, like going into this, have you thought about or made adjustments already for it? Are you waiting till like kind of the fight after this? How has that approach been for this format?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely had to make some adjustments where I planned ahead. Of course, I'm not overlooking. Like I said, I really feel
Yeah.
like Velasquez is going to be a super dangerous opponent because she hasn't fought since, and she has two losses and things to prove with $1 million on the line. So in my mind, she's probably the most dangerous person in the tournament right now. And even if she was later on, she's gunning for me, and I feel like she's the most dangerous person, right? So I'm not overlooking her, but I certainly do have to plan ahead and prepare for that. I mean, one of the things I don't usually do is I don't come back from my fight camp at the end of the fight and immediately head back to training camp. I
Right.
usually spend a few days with my family. I go back to my gyms in Tennessee, but it's not the same tempo as in fight camp, right?
Yeah.
I train maximum of training is 4 hours a day there, and the maximum I train here is 7 to 8 hours a day, right? So substantially more. So that's one of the big differences. I won't be doing like the fat kid foodie tour
Yeah.
and trying out all the local spots and going for a week straight of just trying all
Which
those. Right?
sucks.
Yeah, it was definitely sucks, but it's a good thing.
Yes.
So knowing those two things alone are going to make the weight cutting super easy. The only thing that messes me up is not being able to maintain my training schedule that I normally keep, and then going off the rails for a week where I'm eating disgusting food that I've never touched in my life
Yes.
under normal circumstances.
Exactly. Oh, that's perfect. So you mentioned it right there, Liz, like Velasquez being the most dangerous right now at this moment and everything, which, totally fair to say. But I'm curious, kind of, let's remove her, I guess, from the picture, who you would say is the most dangerous or toughest challenge out of everyone in the tournament. I talked to Dakota, and she said very clearly, you and Tyler Santos are the top two. You're the champ. Tyler coming over from UFC, arguably beat Shevchenko in a lot of people's eyes, but she said it's like you guys, which I thought was kind of cool of her to acknowledge. But who would you say, I guess, outside of Velasquez, who you got in front of you, is going to be the biggest?
It's funny Because those are exactly the two names that I would have said.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, because it makes sense. When I'd heard possibilities of Talia coming over, I thought she was still signed with the UFC. So that seemed like a little bit crazy. I'm like, why'd they even throw her name?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, yeah, she's definitely super promising and a very dangerous person to have in the tournament. And then, of course, Dakota, having won the belt in the UK, she has nothing but promise ahead for her future. And she's implementing all the tools necessary to be able to get there. So in my mind, those are the two people to watch out for.
Yes, definitely. I agree. And, since we last caught up, Liz, we did get a new champ over in the UFC. You've never fought Raquel Pennington, but, it was really cool, I think, to see with her career and the story. And I want to get your thoughts on, just what it was for you seeing her and have been around her for as long as you were when you were there.
Yeah, we were scheduled to fight, I want to say twice. One time one of us got injured. The other time somebody got super sick and we weren't able to do it. But Raquel is somebody who I know that I was looking at and I followed her career. And so to see her finally be able to pull off and get that belt, to do the 135 division after as long as she's been in the UFC, as long as that reign's going on, to finally achieve that with her role in the LGBT community is just phenomenal. And it's so cool to see that she finally pulled that off.
Yeah, I know. She's been a really great, unexpectedly fitting of champion. Not that I was surprised, but I guess you don't expect till you see it, right? So yeah. I think she's already fit right into that spot. And last time that we talked also, Liz, I mentioned how, I'm not telling you to retire. I don't want you to, especially right now you're rolling. But the idea of maybe double retirement with Ilima would have been fun at 300, all these things about it. But now I look at this PFL season, I'm like, man, if she caps this off with the title and $1 million, that's a pretty good way to go out too. I mean, how are we feeling now? You said you can keep going after the last one, but that's a good way to do it, I'd say.
Yeah, I think the best case scenario would be to get the belt at 125, right? Boycott, get in PFL's ear, having gotten the belt to be able to influence them and hopefully get to achieve bringing a 135 division over and ending it with the 135 belt. So I think another season, but going up a weight class, that would be the cherry on top, and that could close everything out.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome. And I'm kind of glad you're sticking with this 135 idea because it's been a little bit of a topic, I think, I would probably say since Rocky became champ in January. But, the bantamweight division, I think pretty inarguably the most important division for the women in MMA history because of, how you guys started and all that. In the past, 10, 11 years, there's been a significant kind of drop in talent and exposure, all that kind of stuff. And I think personally, maybe flyweight hurt it just because it took from other divisions coming in, maybe took away. But why do you kind of think, from your perspective, having been a part of it, that maybe the division isn't quite the same as it was, 10 years ago in terms of, the spotlight and all that stuff that it got before?
Yeah, I definitely feel like we just haven't had a champion that had the charisma at 135 to be able to bring over the talent. But if you look at Bellator being a prime example, a lot of those 145ers that fill and implement what we know as being their division at 145 are truly 135ers, right? They moved up a weight class because they know that there's no way they can make 125.
Yeah.
Or maybe they just don't want to. Whatever the case happens to be, they're not going down to 125, so they went up to 145, right? And we have some 125ers like myself that are killing ourselves to make 125 that could perform so much better at 135, right? Or women that could probably perform better and don't know it, they can make it, but they don't have a lot of muscle in their body. They're not really pulling it together at 125, do things right, and could be a much better 135 fighter. So I think that if we could have those two weight classes, we'd be dominating everywhere, and that would definitely be the organization to look out for. It'd be PFL, because we'd have two weight classes that 135, they're bigger, but they're still small and fast.
Yeah.
There are bigger girls in there, but they still have the speed and excitement is really what makes 125, right? 115, you look a little too small. 125, you're like, well, that's comparable. That looks like girls I could see walking on the street, but then they could actually be fighters. And 135, I feel like it's the same thing, whereas you see some 45s and you're like, yeah, no, you can spot that person a mile away. That's not your average human being.
Right.
45, she's 5'11" and she's stacked.
Yeah, just a beast.
Yeah. So whereas you can identify with a 125 and a 135 female. You're like, oh, that's my friend. That's, the girl I train with at CrossFit. That's the people that I see here. Those are the ones that you can connect with, and then they can surprise you by destroying you in the cage.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very well said. I didn't quite think about it that way, but that's why you're the champ and I'm not. So, all right, Liz. Well, on that note, fingers crossed that we could make that happen. And of course, best of luck as always with the upcoming fight. I'll be there, so I'm keeping the streak going
Yes.
of being at your fight. So I will see you soon in San Antonio. Will
All
be a good
right.
time. And yeah, safe travels to get there. Thanks so much as always for catching up. And yeah, I'll see you soon.
All right. I'll see you soon. Let's keep up that streak.
I know. Let's do it. All right,
Thank
Liz.
you.
Have a good day.
You too.